strange. Now, to think of you gone without corsets and eyes, and I walk on the sunny pavements of Greenwich Village. Clear winter noon, downtown Manhattan, and I've been up all night talking, reading the Kaddish aloud, listening to Ray Charles blues shout blind on the phonograph, and your memory in my head 3 years after. And read the Adonais final stanzas aloud. The smile that kindles the universe now beams on me. I wept, realizing how we suffer and how death is that remedy that all singers dream of. Sing, remember, prophesy, as in the Hebrew anthem or the Buddhist book of answers, and in my imagination of a withered leaf at dawn. Dreaming back through life, your time, and mine, accelerating toward apocalypse. The final moment, the flower burning in the day and what comes after. Looking back on the mind that saw an American city a flash away, and the great dream of me, or red China, or you in a phantom Russia that never existed, escaped back into obscurity like a poem in the dark. No more to say, nothing to weep over, but the beings caught in that dream, trapped by its disappearance, sighing, screaming with it, buying and selling pieces of phantom love, worshiping each other, worshiping the God included in it all. USSR. Longing or inevitability, while it lasts, a vision. Nothing more. My vision leaps about me when I go out and walk the street. Look back over my shoulder. Seventh Avenue. Battlements of windowed office buildings, shouldering each other high under a cloud, tall as the sky an instant, and the sky above old and blue, or down the avenue to the south, to when I walk towards the Lower East Side, where you walked 50 years ago, little girl, from Russia, eating the first poisonous tomatoes of America, frightened on the dock. Later, pushing through the crowds on Orchard Street. Towards where? Towards Newark. Towards candy store. Towards first homemade sodas in America. Hand-churned ice cream in back rooms on musty brown floorboards. Towards education, marriage, nervous breakdown, operation, teaching school, learning to be mad in a dream, towards the key in the window. And the great key lays its head of light on top of Manhattan, over the floor, lays down on the sidewalk in a single vast beam, moving as I walk down Second toward the Yiddish Theater and the place of poverty that you knew. And I know, but without caring now. Strange. To have moved from Patterson and the West and Europe and here again? With cries of Spaniards now on door-stoop doors, dark boys on the street. Fire escapes as old as you. But you're not old now. That's left here to me. Myself. Anyway. Maybe as old as the universe. And I guess that dies with us. Enough to cancel all that comes. Well, it came. It's gone forever. Every time. And that's good. That makes it open for no regret, no fear of radiators, black love, torture, even toothache in the end. But while it comes, it's a lion that eats the soul. And the lamb, the soul in us, alas, giving itself up for sacrifice to change its fierce hunger, hair, teeth, and the roar of bone pain, skull bare, break rib, mind-tricked implacability, over and over. The refrain of the hospitals. And I have yet to write your history. Keep it abstract. Images. A few images that run through the mind, like saxophone chorus of houses and years. Remembrance of electrical shock. By long hours as a child in Patterson, in the Patterson apartment, watching over your nervousness. You were fat. Your next move. By that afternoon, I stayed home from school to take care of you, once and for all. And vowed forever that once mankind disagreed with my opinion of the universe, I would be lost. By my later burden to illuminate mankind. This is release of particulars. I'm as mad as you. Sanity is a trick of agreement. But you stared out the window at the Broadway church corner and spied a mystical assassin from Newark. So, phone the doctor. Okay, get away for a rest. So I put on my overcoat, walked you down the street. On the way, some grammar school boy unaccountably screamed, "Where you going, lady, to death?" Ooh, I shuddered. You covered your nose with old moth-eaten fur collar, gas mask against poison, sneaked into downtown atmosphere, sprayed by Grandma. And was that bus driver on the cheese box public service bus a member of the gang? You shuddered at his face. I could hardly get you on. To New York, very Times Square, to get a new Greyhound. Two hours we sat there fighting invisible bugs and the Jewish sickness. Breeze poisoned by Roosevelt. Out to get you and me tagging along, hoping that it would end in a quiet room in a Victorian house by a lake. Ride 3 hours through tunnels, past all-American industry, Bayonne, preparing for World War II. Gas tanks, gas factories, soda factories, diners, locomotive, roundhouse fortresses, through Piney Woods, New Jersey, Indians. Calm streets, long roads through sandy tree fields, bridges by Deerless Creeks. Oh, wampum! Old wampum loading the stream bed down there. Tommy Hawk, Pocahontas home. And a million old ladies voting for Roosevelt in small brown houses. Roads off the Madness Highway, and hawk in a tree. Oh, maybe a hermit looking for an owl-filled branch. All the time arguing, afraid of the strangers in the front double seat, snoring regardless. What bus ride are they snoring on now? Alan, you don't understand. Ever since those 3 big sticks up my back, they did something to me in the hospital. They poisoned me. They want to see me dead. 3 big sticks. 3 big sticks. That bitch, old Grandma. Last week I saw her. Dressed in pants like an old man with a bag on her back, climbing up the brick side of the apartment on the fire escape. With poison germs to throw on me at night. Well, maybe Louis is helping her. He's under her power. I'm your mother. Take me to Lakewood, where I can hide. We got there. Dr. Watsett's rest home. She hid behind the closet, demanded a blood transfusion. We were kicked out, tramping with valise, looking for unknown shady lawn houses, dusk, pine trees, at night, long dead street, filled with crickets and poison ivy. Shut her up by now. Oh, big house. Sign. Rest home rooms. Gave the landlady a week's money for her rent. Carried up the iron valise. Sat on the bed, waiting to escape. Nice room in the attic here. Friendly bed cover. Lace curtains. Oh, spinning wheel rug. Stained wallpaper as old as Naomi. We were home. I left on the next bus for New York. I sat in the back seat and laid my head back, depressed. The worst yet to come. Abandoning her. I rode in torpor. I was 12. Would she stay in her room all night and come out cheerful for breakfast, or lock herself in and stare through the window, looking for street-side spies, or listen at the keyhole for a Hitlerian invisible poison gas, or dream in a chair, or mock me by sitting in front of a mirror alone? Riding the bus at night through New Jersey. I had left Naomi to her fate in a Lakewood haunted house, left to my own on the bus, sunk in the seat, all violins broken. My heart sore in my ribs, mind empty. Would she was safe in her coffin! Or back at the normal school in Newark, studying up on America in a black skirt, in winter on the street without lunch, penny a pickle, home at night to take care of Eleanor in the bedroom. The first nervous breakdown, 1919. She stayed home from school and laid in a dark room for 3 weeks. Something bad, she never said what. Every noise hurt. Dreams of the creaking of Wall Street before the Great Depression. Went to upstate New York, recovered. Lou took her photo, sitting on the grass, cross-legged, her long hair wound with flowers, smiling, singing lullabies on a mandolin. Poison ivy smoke in left-wing summer camps. And me, in my infancy, saw trees. Or back teaching school, laughing with idiots. The backward classes, her Russian speciality, morons with dreamy lips, great eyes, thin feet, sticky fingers, rachitic, sway-backed, great heads pendulous over Alice in Wonderland. Blackboards covered with C-A-T. Naomi reading patiently from a communist fairy story. The tale of the sudden sweetness of the dictator. Forgiveness of the warlocks. Armies kissing. Deathheads around the green table. The King and the Workers. Patterson Press printed them up in the 30s till she went mad, or they folded. Both. Patterson, oh. I got home late that night. Louis was worried. How could I be so? What did I think? I shouldn't have left her alone, mad, in Lakewood. Call the doctor, call the house in the woods, in the pines. Oh, it's too late. Exhausted, I went to bed. I wanted to leave the world. 2 o'clock in the morning, phone rang. Emergency. She's gone mad. Naomi, hiding under the bed, screaming buds of Mussolini. Help! Louis, Bubber, fascistes! The landlady, frightened, the old fag attendant screaming at her. Terror woke the neighbors, old ladies on the second floor, recovering from menopause, all those rags between their thighs, clean sheets, worried about, sad about babies who were lost, husbands ashen, children sneering at Yale, or putting oil in their hair at CCNY, or trembling at the Mount Clair State Teachers College like my brother Eugene. Her big leg crouched to her chest. Her hand outstretched, keep away. Wool dress on her thighs. Fur coat dragged under the bed. She had barricaded herself under the bed springs with suitcases. Was it my fault for delivering her to solitude? Louis, in pajamas, listening on the telephone, frightened. Oh, do now. Who could know? Sitting on the couch in the dark, trembling, trying to figure out. He took the morning train to Lakewood. Naomi, still under the bed. She thought he was bringing the poison cops. Naomi screaming! Oh, Louis. What happened to your heart then? Have you been killed by Naomi's ecstasy? Dragged her out around the corner, cab. Forced her in with valise. The cab driver dropped them off at the drugstore. Bus stop, 2-hour wait. I lay in bed, nervous, in the 4-room apartment. The big bed in the living room next to Louis's desk. Shaking. Louis came home that night late. Told me what happened. Naomi at the prescription counter, defending herself against enemies, tall racks of children's books, douchebags, aspirins, pots. Don't you come near, murderers. Keep away, promise you won't kill me. Louis, in horror, at the soda fountain, with the Girl Scouts from Lakewood. Coke addicts, nurses, busmen hung up on schedule, the police from the county precinct, dumber, and a priest dreaming of pigs on an ancient cliff. Smelling the air? Louis pointing into emptiness? Customers vomiting their cokes or staring? Louis humiliated. Naomi triumphant. The announcement of the plot. The bus arrives. The bus drivers will not let them on the trip to New York. So telephone Dr. Watsits. She needs a rest. The mental hospital at Greystone State. State Greystone doctors, bring her to us, Mr. Ginsberg. Naomi. Sweating. Bulge-eyed. Fat. Hair over brow. Dress all unbuttoned down one side. Stockings hanging evilly on her legs. Screaming for blood transfusion. One righteous hand upheld, shoe in it. Barefoot in the pharmacy. The enemy's approach. What poisons? What tape recorders? FBI? Jaganov, behind the counter. Trotsky, mixing rat bacteria in the room at the back. Uncle Sam in Newark, plotting poisonous perfumes in the Negro district. Uncle Ephraim, drunk with murder in the politician's bar. The plottings of Haig. Aunt Rose, passing water through the needles of the Spanish Civil War. Till the hired ambulance arrives for Red Bank. They grab her arms, they strap her into a stretcher, moaning, poisoned by imaginaries, vomiting chemicals through Jersey, begging for mercy from Essex County to Morristown, and back to Greystone, where she lay 3 years. That was the last breakthrough. On what wards? Oh, I walked there later, oft. Old cadaverous ladies, gray as cloud, as ash, as wall, mooning over floor space, chairs, old wrinkled hags that creep, accusing, demanding my 13-year-old money. Take me home. I went there alone, sometimes, to find the lost Naomi, taking shock. Now it's electric. After 40 insulin and metrazole that made her fat. And I said, oh, you're crazy, Mama. Trust the doctors. So, a few years later, she came back home. Oh, we'd much advanced and planned. I waited for that day, my mother home, to cook and play the piano and sing at the mandolin, Yellungstu and Stenkarazin the Bandit and the Communist Line on the war in Finland. And Louis is in debt. Poison money, she speculates. Mysterious capitalisms. And she walked down the long hall looking at the furniture. She didn't remember it all. Some amnesia. She examined the doilies. And the dining room set, oh, that was sold long ago. And the mahogany table, 20 years love, that's off to the junk man. But we've got the piano and the book of Poe and the mandolin, although it needs some strings, and Dusty. She walked into the back room to lay down in bed and to ruminate, to nap, to hide. I went in with her, not let her in by herself. I lay down in bed with her. Shades pulled down. Dusky, late afternoon. Louis in the living room. at the desk, waiting, perhaps boiling a chicken for supper. You don't have to be afraid of me because I've just come home from the mental hospital. I'm your mother. Poor love. Lost, I'm afraid. I lay there. I said, I love you, Naomi. Stiff at her hand. I could have cried. Was this their comfortless love union? Nervous. Well, she got up soon. Oh, was she ever satisfied? Sitting by herself on the new sofa in the front window, uneasy, eyes narrowing at what fate this day, cheek leaning on her hand, mouth forming an O, suspicion, absent side glance of eye, some evil debt written in the wall, unpaid, and the wrinkled breasts of Newark come near. She may have heard some gossip on the radio through the wires in her head, controlled by the 3 big sticks in her back left by the doctors of amnesia in the hospital. They caused her pain between her shoulders up to her neck. Roosevelt should know my case, she said. They're afraid to kill her now because the government knows their names have been linked to Hitler. She wanted to leave Louis's house forever. Possibly that was the year I was newly in love with my high school brain hero. Nice Jewish boy, became a doctor. But then, quiet, neat kid, I was to lay down my life for him. Moved to Manhattan. I followed him to college. I prayed on the ferry on the day I left to get the entrance examination. I vowed that I would help mankind, if admitted, by becoming an honest revolutionary labor lawyer. I would train for it, inspired by Sacco Vanzetti and Norman Thomas, Debs, Altgeld, Sandberg, Poe, Little Blue Books. I wanted to be president or senator. Ignorant woes. I had dreams of kneeling by his shock knees, declaring my love of 1951. Oh, what sweetness he would show me, which I wished him and despaired of. Oh, first love, a crush. Later, mortal avalanche. Whole mountains of homosexuality. Matterhorns of cock, Grand Canyons of asshole. Wait on my melancholy mind. Without space beyond. What's outside? Going home to Graham Avenue, still melancholy, walking past the long green hedges across the street, dreaming from the movies. One night, sudden attack. Heard noise from the bathroom, like croaking up her soul. Oh, convulsions. red vomit coming out of her mouth. Diarrhea, water just exploding from her behind, on all fours in front of the toilet. Urine running between her legs. Left retching on the floor, smeared with her own black feces. She's unfainted. And 40. At 40, she was varicose, fat, nude, doomed, hiding outside the front door near the elevator, calling for the cops, screaming for her friend Rosie to help. Once she locked herself in with a razor or a iodine. We heard her coughing through her tears at the sink. Lou broke through the glass painted green door. We dragged her out, put her to bed. And then quiet. Quiet for months that winter. She walked by herself nearby on Broadway, read the Daily Worker, broke her arm, slipped and fell on an icy street, and began scheming her escape from the cosmic financial murder plots. Ran away later to the Bronx, to her sister Eleanor. Oh, now there is a saga. The late Naomi in New York. Oh, or Eleanor, or the Workman's Circle that she worked at dressing envelopes. By them, she managed to make out. She went shopping for Campbell's tomato soup, saved the money that Louis mailed her. Later, she got herself a boyfriend. Yes, and he was a doctor. Dr. Isaac worked for the National Maritime Union, and he was at this time Italian, bald, pudgy old doll. And he himself was an orphan, but they kicked him out. Oh, old cruelties. Sloppier, sitting on a bed or a chair in a corset, daydreaming. Oh, I'm hot. I'm getting fat. Oh, I had such a nice figure before I went to the hospital. You should have seen me at Woodbine. This was in a furnished room in around the corner from the National Maritime Union, 1943. And then looking at naked baby pictures in the magazines, baby powder ads, strained lamb, carrots. I will think nothing but beautiful thoughts. Her head revolving on her neck, around and around. Hypnotized, dozy, dreamed, recall. I touch his face. I touch his face. Standing in the light of the summertime window, I will think nothing but beautiful thoughts. He touches my lips with his hand. The baby has a beautiful hand. Or a no shudder has some disgust, some thought of book involved, or some insulin passes through her brain. It's an involuntary grimace, a shudder, as some bad chemical goes through her cortex. Naomi, when we die, we become an onion. or a cabbage or a carrot or a squash, a vegetable, and I, visiting from Colombia, agree. And she reads the Bible and thinks nothing but beautiful thoughts all day long. Yesterday, I saw God. What did he look like? Well, in the afternoon, I took a ladder. I went up a ladder, and he's got a cheap cabin in the woods, like near Monroe, New York, and the chicken cabins, in the chicken farms in the woods. And he's a lonely old man with a big beard. And I cooked supper for him. Oh, I made him a nice supper. A lentil soup and vegetables and bread and butter and milks. And he sat down at the table and he ate. Oh, he was sad. Oh, I said to him, look at all the fightings and the murders the killings down there. Why don't you, what's the matter? Why don't you do something about it to stop it? He says, I try. That's all he can do. Oh, he's so tired. He's been a bachelor so long and he likes lentil soup. All this time, serving me cold fish, raw cabbage chopped, dipped with tap water, smelly tomatoes, week-old health food, grated beets and carrots, leaky juice, warm. Sometimes I could not eat disconsolate food. More and more disconsolate food I couldn't eat from nausea. Oh. The charity of her hand stinking with Manhattan madness, her desire to please me. Cold, undercooked fish on a plate, pale pink near the bone. And her smells, and oft naked in the room, so that I stared out or I thumbed through a book to ignore her. One time I thought she was trying to make me come and lay her. Flirting with herself at the sink. Laying back on the bed with her dress up around her hips, big slash of hair, scars of operations, pancreas, belly wounds, abortions, appendix, stitching of incisions, pulling down through the fat, making thick, fat, hideous zippers, ragged, long lips between her legs, and what? Oh, even the smell of her asshole. I was cold, but there, later, I was revolted a little, and maybe not so much. It began to seem like it might be a good idea. And to know the monster of the beginning womb, perhaps that way, would she care? She needed a lover. She needed a lover. Yisbarach, Yistabach, Yisbarach, Yisroman, Yis Naseh, Yis Ador, Yis Hallel, Yis Halal. Shmei Kaddish Bruchu. And Louis reestablishing himself in Patterson in a grimy apartment in the Negro section. God, living in dark rooms, but he found himself a girl he later married. Falling in love again, falling in love. Although sear and sly, mad, hurt from 20 years of Naomi's mad idealism. I went to see him once. I was in New York for some time, and he was lonely. We were sitting in the bedroom. He sat in an office chair, turned to face me, weeping, red eyes under his glasses, tears. We'd left him. Eugene somehow strangely gone into the army, her gone out on her own, almost childish in that furnished room. And so Louis walked down to the post office every day to get the mail, taught in the high school, sat behind the desk in the poetry section, forlorn, ate grief and Bickfords all those years gone. And Gene got out of the army, came home, changed, loan, cut off his nose with a Jewish operation. All those years he would stop girls on Broadway for cups of coffee to get laid. Now he was at NYU. Serious, finished law. And Jean lived with her. He ate naked fish, cheap. Naked fish cakes. While she got crazier and he got thinner. Maybe he felt helpless while she was striking 1920 poses at the moon, half naked on the bed next to him. He bit his lips and studied the weird nurse son. Later, a year later, he got that room near Columbia, although she wanted to live with her children. Listen to your mother's plea, I beg of you. Louis still sending her money. I was in the bunkhouse for 8 months that year. My visions, unmentioned in this here lament. And she went half mad. Hitler was in her room. She saw his mustache in the sink. Now she was afraid of Dr. Isaac. She thought that he was possibly behind the Newark plot. So she moved into the Bronx to be next to her sister Eleanor's rheumatic heart. And Uncle Max never got up before noon. Naomi, 6 o'clock every morning, listened to the radio for spies, examining the windowsill. For downstairs in the empty lot, an old man with a sack walked, shoving packages of garbage in his long black coat. Woodlawn Cemetery was across the street. The veil of graves, the last stop on the Bronx subway. A lot of communists in the area. Uncle Max had a cousin, Edie. Edie worked. She worked at Gimbel's 17 years, bookkeeping. And she lived downstairs in the downstairs apartment, and she was divorced. So Edie took Naomi in at Rochambeau Avenue, who signed up for painting classes at night at Bronx Adult High School, walked by herself under the Van Cortlandt elevated line to class, painted Naomiisms, humans sitting on the lawn in some Camp Nigadagets in the summers years ago, or saints with droopy faces and long ill-fitting pants from the hospital, brides standing in front of the Lower East Side with short grooms, runaway elevators running over the Babylonian apartment rooftops of the Bronx. Sad pictures. But she expressed herself. Her mandolin gone, all the strings in her head broken. She tried. But she started kicking Eleanor. And Eleanor had a bad heart. And she went upstairs and she questioned her for hours about Spidem. Eleanor was frazzled. Max was at the office all day doing accounting for the cigar stores, didn't come home till at night. Kicking the girls, Edie and Eleanor. She woke Edie up at midnight and told her that Eleanor was a spy, was a rat, and she was a spy. Edie couldn't take it. She worked all day. She was organizing the union. I got a call from and Eleanor was dying. And the relatives called me up and said, "This is worse. She's getting worse. You're the only one." So I went to see her with Eugene on the subway. Ate cold fish. a wonderful woman. And I have a truly beautiful soul. And for that reason, they, Hitler, Grandma, Hearst, capitalists, Franco, the Daily News, the 20s, Mussolini, The Walking Dead, wanted to shut me up. Bubba runs a spider network and my sister whispers into the radio. Louis must be in the apartment. His mother tells him what to say. Liars, I have fed my 2 children and I played the mandolin. Last night, the nightingale sang. Last night the nightingale woke me. Last night when all was still, it sang in the golden moonlight from on a wintry hill. She did. I pushed her against the door. Stop kicking Eleanor! She looked at me contempt. Die! Disbelief. Her sons could be so naive, dumb. Eleanor's the worst spy. She takes orders. There are no wires in the room. I'm yelling now. It's the last ditch. Eugene is sitting on the bed and listening. How can he escape from this fatal mama? You have been away from Louis for years already. Grandma is too old to walk. We're all alive then. Me and Eugene and Naomi in one mythological, cousin-esque room, screaming at each other in the forever. Me in my Columbia jacket, her half naked. I'm banging against her head that saw radios, sticks, Hitlers, the gamut of hallucinations as real. Her universe. No road that goes elsewhere to my own. No America. Not even the world. That you go as all men. As Van Gogh, as Mad Hannah, as all the same to the final doom. Thunder, spirits, lightning, boom. I have seen your grave, O strange Naomi, and my own cracked grave. Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, Asrul Avram, Israel, Abraham, Irwin, Alan, and you, Naomi, the same in death. Your last night in the darkness of the Bronx, I telephoned through the hospital to the secret police. They came while we were yelling at each other, screaming at Eleanor in my ear, who was upstairs breathing hard in her own bed, getting thin. Nor will forget the door knock, or your fear of spies, the law advancing on my honor, destiny entering the room, you staring at my eyes betrayed the final cops of madness defending me against your foot on Eleanor's broken heart. Your voice at Edie, weary of gimbals and coming home to broken radios. Louis, needing a poor divorce, he wants to get married soon. And Eugene, dreaming hiding on 125th Street, suing Negroes for money for crud furniture and defending black girls. And you ran to the bathroom in protest, hiding against the final heroic fate. Protesting, you're sane, putting on a cloth robe, your shoes then new, your purse, your newspaper clippings, oh, your honesty, as you vainly made your lips more real with lipstick, looking in the mirror to see if the madness was me or a car full of police or grandma spying at 78. Your vision, her crawling over the walls of the cemetery with a bag of political kidnappers' bags. Or what you saw written on the walls of the Bronx in the pink nightgown at midnight, staring down at the empty lot. Rochambeau Avenue, the final playground of phantoms. The final apartments in the Bronx for communist spies. The last home for Eleanor and Naomi. Here, these two communist sisters lost their revolution. So, come on, missus, will you put on your coat? We got the wagon waiting downstairs. You want to come with her to the station? Yes, then I went on that last ride. I took her hand. I held her hand. I kissed her head. I said, I did it for Edie. Edie, Eleanor's not well, and Max. And she went, shh. Why did you do this? Yes, missus, your son is going to have to leave you in an hour. The ambulance came in a few hours and rode off at 4 a.m. to some Bellevue in the night downtown. Off to the hospital forever. I watched her go. They led her away. She waved. Tears in her eyes. Two years later, after a trip to Mexico, bleak on the plains near Brentwood, scrub brush, grass on unused railroad tracks to the crazy house, brick 20-story new central building lost on the plains of Madtown, Long Island, huge cities of the moon. Asylum raises giant wings over path to minuscule black hole, the door. Entrance through crotch. I went in. Smelt funny. The halls again. Elevator up to glass door on a ward, woman's ward, to Naomi. Two nurses, buxom white, let her out. She stared. I gasped. She'd had a stroke. Too thin. Shrunk on her bones. Age come to Naomi, now broken out in white hair. Dress hanging loose on her skeleton face, shrunk, old. Withered. Cheek of crone, one hand stiff. Weight of the 40s and menopause reduced by one heart stroke, now lame. Wrinkles. Scar on head. Lobotomy! Ruin! Her hand dripping down to death. Oh, Russian-faced woman on the grass. Flowers in your hair. Your mandolin is on your knees. Oh, communist beauty married in the summer among the daisies, promised happiness at hand. Holy Mother, you smile at your love. Your world is born anew. The children are running through the field naked. They eat in the plum tree grove, and they find a cabin where an old white-haired Negro teaches the mysteries of the rain barrel. Blessed daughter, come to America. How I long to hear you, remembering your mother's music in the song of the United Front. Where you are to the glorious muse that bore me from the womb, gave suck, first mystic life, taught me how to talk and music, and from whose paint head I first learned vision. Beaten in the head, tortured. What mad hallucinations of the damned drive me out of my skull to seek eternity until I find peace for thee. Oh, poetry! And I call for all mankind on the origin. Death, which is the mother of the universe, now wear your nakedness forever. White flowers in your hair, your marriage is sealed behind the sky, and no revolution can destroy that maidenhood. Oh, beautiful Garbo. My karma. All the photographs of 1920 of Camp Nicodaigan are unchanged here. With all the teachers from Newark, and Eleanor not forgotten, or Max not yet seeing his specter, nor will Louis ever retire from this high school. Back, you, Naomi. Gaunt woman of skulls, gaunt immortality and revolution, poor broken woman, small broken woman. Ashen indoor eye of hospital, gray of ward on skin. Are you a spy? I sat at the sour table, tears in my eyes. Who are you? Did Louis send you? The wires in her hair as she beat her head. I'm not a bad girl, don't kill me, I listen to the ceiling. I raised 2 children. It was 2 years since I've been there. I began to cry. She stared. The nurse broke up the meeting for a moment. I went into the bathroom to hide against the toilet's white tiles. Oh, the horror. I wept to see her. I wept as if she had already died. In the full funeral rot in her coffin. Oh, the horror. I went back. She was still yelling. They let her out. You're not Alan! I watched her face. She walked past without looking. She went to the door to the ward, opened it, and went through quickly without looking back. I stared. She was old, on the verge of the grave. All the horrors. Another year, I left New York on the West Coast in Berkeley Cottage. I dreamed of her soul, that all through life, in whatever form it took in that body, ashen or manic, gone beyond joy, near death with eyes, was my love in that form. The Naomi, my mother on earth, still. I wrote her a long letter and wrote hymns to the mad through the courtesy of the God of poetry that makes broken grass go green or rocks break in the grass, or the sun to be constant to the earth, the sun of all sunflowers, or of days on bright days on iron bridges, the sun that shines on old hospitals as on my yard. And one night coming back from San Francisco, Orlovsky in my room, Whalen in his peaceful chair, there's a telegram from Jean. Naomi dead. Outside, I put my head down to the ground under the bushes near the garage. I knew she was better, at last, not left to watch the world alone for 2 years. No one. At that age, near 60, woman of skulls that had once been the long-tressed Naomi of the Bible, or Ruth crying in America, or Rebecca getting old in Newark, or David remembering his harp, now a lawyer at Yale, or Israel of Rome. Israel, Abraham, Irwin, Alan left in the wilderness to sing to God. Oh, Elohim. And so to the finish, 2 years after her death, 2 days after her death, I got her letter. Strange new prophecies. She wrote, the key is in the window. The key is in the sunlight in the window. I have the key. Get married, Alan. Don't take drugs. The key is in the bars and the sunlight in the window. Love, your mother. Which is Naomi.